Awesome. Well, looks like we're holding steady here. We just have a few folks joining us tonight, which is absolutely great. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Tyler Lussier. I serve as one of our Associate Deans of Admission and will be serving as really the facilitator for the conversation tonight. The aim of these Bobcat chats, hopefully a casual, informal opportunity just to learn a little bit more about different parts of student life. And obviously for tonight, our focus is going to be on financial aid. So for Emiliano, Katie, Lillian, and Paul, our hope is to answer questions you four might have, maybe your folks might have, as you navigate applying to college and the financial aid process, and obviously from our perspective, really helping you understand what that looks like at Bates. But fortunately for you, I will not be doing all the talking. I will be joined by one of my colleagues who I will let introduce herself.
Thanks, Tyler. Hello, everybody out there. I'm super excited to be here this evening to share with you some information about financial aid and how it works at Bates College. My name is Wendy Glass. I'm the Director of Student Financial Services at Bates. I have worked at Bates for about a little more than 25 years. And I'm also the parent of a recent Bates graduate. So I wear two hats, one as the financial aid director and also as a Bates parent, a proud Bates parent. So what I'm hoping to do is just share with you an overview of how the financial aid program works at Bates. And I will be happy to answer any questions you have about the application process, or if you have specific questions about how aid can be used, how what our packages look like, and how we calculate eligibility for financial aid. So just to start at the top, for those of you who may not know, Bates College offers only need-based financial aid. It's a philosophy of financial aid that's really central to our mission of providing access and opportunity to students, regardless of their socioeconomic status, regardless of how much their parents earn. The idea is to make a Bates education accessible and possible for any student who is admitted to the college and wants to come to Bates. So what need-based aid is what that means is that we calculate using information that your family provides to us what we think your family can afford to pay towards the cost of education. And once we determine what that amount is, we subtract that from our total cost of education, and the difference is your financial need. And that is what we offer. We offer grant aid and we offer loan and work study to meet that need. Our philosophy is that we meet 100% of a student's calculated need, and we recalculate that need every year so that we're certain to take into consideration any changes that happen within a household. So for example, if a parent experiences a job loss or a sibling goes to college, those are all factors that change every year, and we take those into consideration when we're calculating a student's eligibility for financial aid. So when we, some colleges offer merit financial aid, and that's financial aid that is based on perhaps if you're a talented theater participant, or if you score a certain amount on your SATs, or if you have a certain GPA, or if you're an athlete. Some colleges will offer financial aid based on those factors, but at Bates, we base it only on financial criteria. So we want to make sure that the resources that we have are going to the students who need those resources to be able to attend the college. And annually, we award more than $37 million of grant aid, and that's aid that doesn't need to be repaid at any point. So that's kind of a very high level overview of our financial aid program, and we can certainly answer any questions people have.
Thanks, Wendy. So yeah, folks, if you have any questions at all, just to orient yourself, you may notice at the bottom of your screen the Q&A option there, and that will allow you to type any questions that you may have directly into the box, and we'll be happy to field any and all questions, whether they be related to paperwork, whether they be related to outside scholarships, funding, or just something random that you'd really like to ask us. We're happy to field questions. So I have a few questions that I will throw out to Wendy, but please in the meantime, if you have any that you'd like us to really discuss, again, please feel free to put those in the Q&A option here. So Wendy, just to get us started for folks, looks like we already got a question. This is awesome. And for Lillian, this will be an easy one to throw back out to Wendy. Knowing that obviously paperwork will be needed to help understand a family's expected family contribution, can you talk about what paperwork is required to apply for financial aid at Bates?
Sure. When we're calculating eligibility for financial aid, there are two main application forms that we ask applicants to submit. They're both online forms. One is the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. And that allows us to determine a student's eligibility for federal financial aid, like federal work study or direct student loans or federal Pell Grants. The form that we use to calculate eligibility for our institutional grant is called the CSS profile. And that is a form that can also be completed online. It's through the College Board. And it asks more questions than the FAFSA, but it gives us a lot more information to work with to really, hopefully, truly understand a family's financial picture. So those are the two application forms that we require. And in addition to that, we ask families to provide us with documentation of their income. And that's usually a tax return and W-2 forms. For Canadian citizens, it's a Canadian tax return. And for international students, it's usually documentation from a parent's employer.
And Wendy, can you explain, is the financial aid model the same for international students versus domestic students?
It is. The formula is slightly different because international students, as you can imagine, they come from a variety of countries. There are different currencies. So our process for evaluating those applications is a little bit different, but the policy is exactly the same. We meet 100% of the applicant's need. The composition of the package may be a little bit different because there are types of aid available to US citizens and domestic students that aren't available to international students. But the overarching philosophy of meeting 100% of need for all 4 years is exactly the same.
Awesome. And then Katie was just asking about deadlines. When would the paperwork for those need to be in?
Sure. The deadline for submitting financial aid application materials is exactly the same as the admission deadline. So there's no difference. So for early decision 1, the deadline is November 15th. For early decision 2 and regular decision, it's January 1. And then for fall transfer, I believe, if I'm correct, that's March 15th, I believe, Tyler. Okay. So, but anyway, it's exactly the same as the admission application deadline.
Awesome. And I have Emiliano here asking a question that I think he's sending my way. So Emiliano, you're asking about financial aid for international students and for students that have a higher need coming from the international perspective. As many folks know, international financial aid at a lot of colleges can be incredibly competitive. And so for Emiliano, I just want you to know, your question was, you're really considering early decision, but you know that some universities and colleges automatically defer international students. So for us, I just hope you understand that we really evaluate based on fit. We want to find students that are the best fit for Bates College. And the reason that we offer financial aid in the way that we do is so that all students have an opportunity to study at Bates. And so whether that's a student whose family can't help contribute towards the cost of attending, or it's a family that may be able to support their student fully financially, we want Bates to be an opportunity for all students. And so I know you mentioned, you know, the background there and that you might need financial aid. That's certainly something that, again, if you're a great fit for Bates, we are excited to offer that financial support. Wendy, can you maybe on the financial aid side give an idea of, say, an international student applied with an EFC of 0? which means their expected family contribution is zero and they may not be able to contribute towards their education. What would their financial aid package look like? What would it be comprised of?
Sure. Well, first of all, what we would do, first of all, I just want to give you some context and let you know that the average need-based grant at Bates is about $49,000 for a student that's entering in the class of 2024. But the actual range of individual scholarships that we offer, it's entirely dependent upon a student's calculated need. And in the current year, it ranges all the way from maybe a few $1,000s all the way up to $74,000. We do have students at Bates who have zero family contributions, whose families are not able to contribute towards their students' costs. And so what the package would look like, it would look a little bit different for a student from the US than it would for an international student. But in this case, if this is an example for an international student, what we would do is we would calculate the cost of attendance, which for this year, standard cost of attendance is a little under $76,000. If the student contribution were zero, then we would, then the student's need would be the full $76,000. For an international student, we would meet some of that need with a campus job or the offer of employment of up to $1,700. And then the rest of that would be met with grant aid from the college. So that's what that type of a package would look like. For a US student, it's a slightly different in that we do include a small direct student loan as part of the student's need-based financial aid award. So in a similarly, we would take the cost of education, we would meet a portion of the need with a campus job, and then we would include a $2,000 loan, and then the remaining need would be met with institutional grant or a combination of grants from the institution and perhaps from the federal government.
Awesome. So Emiliano, I hope that answered your question, and I hope I'm pronouncing your first name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. But really, again, hope you and everyone realizes that for us at Bates, we're very fortunate in the sense that, again, we really look for students based on fit and trying to find the best students to bring into our community here. And having a financial aid policy that allows us to meet 100% of demonstrated need, again, allows us to make sure that Bates is an education for all students, regardless of their family circumstances. And then Wendy, I know a lot of students sometimes stress. I think they don't really fully understand what work study is. Is it a part of my package? Is it not? Do I have to have a job? Can you maybe just explain a little bit more about what work study really is? Can they get a job if it's not a part of it? And just help clarify that?
Certainly. So when we're calculating cost of attendance, our cost of attendance includes things in addition to what we charge. So we expect that students will probably need to have money for books. They'll probably need to have some money to help with their incidental expenses. So when we include the offer of campus employment in the financial aid package, what we're really doing is saying to students, this is a way that you can earn money to help offset your own incidental expenses. And work study is, it's not money that goes towards paying the bill. It's money that's paid directly to the student based on the number of students, based on the number of hours a student works during the pay period. And while we include it as part of a need-based financial aid award, really any student at Bates has the opportunity to work on campus if they so desire. Our students are paid an hourly rate of $12 an hour. And we include work study or campus employment of about $1,700 per year in a need-based financial aid award. The limits go up slightly for each year that the student's at Bates, so it ranges anywhere from $1,700 to $2,000 depending upon the student's year in college. But a student who works probably between 7 and 11 hours a week, well, the weeks that school is in session, shouldn't have trouble earning that amount. Some students earn less. They may choose not to work for a semester if they're involved in an athletic sport or if their coursework prevents them from doing that. So they may decide not to work one semester, they may work another semester, or they may just have a job that pays them for a few hours per week. There's no requirement that students work, but it is there for students to access if they want.
Awesome. And folks, if you still have other questions, again, feel free to throw them our way. One of the last ones that I know I can really think of, I know a lot of schools are sometimes categorized as no loans versus schools that may package with loans. But I know at Bates, we try to keep a close eye on that. So Wendy, can you talk about how financial aid packages may use Stafford loans and what that looks like for students at Bates? Do we max them out or how does that work for us?
Well, at Bates, while we do include a student loan as part of every need-based financial aid award, the amounts that we recommend that students borrow are well below the maximum amounts that students can borrow. So for example, an entering student can borrow, or a first-year student can borrow up to $5,500 a year through the direct student loan program. We recommend that students borrow $2,000 a year. And the amount that we recommend does gradually increase over 4 years. It increases by $500 a year, so that by the time a student graduates, if the student has borrowed what we have recommended, they should graduate with no more than $11,000 of student loan debt, which is, we think, is a reasonable amount for students to graduate with. But if a student decides that they don't want to borrow, they're not required to. If they want to meet that, that amount through some other means, if they have an outside scholarship, for example, we allow students to take 100% of their outside scholarship aid to either replace the loan and work we've included in a package, or they can use it to supplement the family's contribution so that it can be used to help meet the family's contribution toward costs.
Well, you answered my outside scholarship question, but folks, again, the hope with these Bobcat chats is that, you know, if you have very pointed questions, we're excited to answer them, but also that we don't look to take up your entire evening. If you just wanted to jump in and learn a little bit more about financial aid at Bates. So my last question for Wendy, so if folks have any other questions, now would be the time to throw them in there. How can folks learn more? How can they get a sense of what they're, what they might qualify for financial aid? How can they connect with folks? How do they learn more about their personal situations? Sorry, Wendy, did you hear my question?
I think I caught it, and I apologize. I've had an unstable connection there for a moment. But
all good.
If I caught it, you were asking how families might be able to estimate what the cost, what they would be expected to cost to pay at Bates.
And just get more information as they go through the process. How can they understand what they might need for aid, and how can they find out more information more broadly?
Sure. We have a couple of excellent tools on our website. So if students are interested in trying them out and seeing potentially what their families might be expected to contribute towards the cost of a Bates education, they can use one of two tools. One is called MyinTuition, and the other is the Bates Net Price Calculator. The MyinTuition is a fantastic tool. It allows families to input it asks maybe like a total of like 6 or 7 questions, really quick to use, about income, assets, and household size and number in college. And what it does is it takes those inputs and it produces a range of expected family contributions. So it will say, for your situation, here is a low estimate of what your family would be expected to contribute. Here's the best range, and then a high range. And what it's doing is it's calculating based on actual Bates data. So we provide data to MyinTuition, anonymous data, of our actual aid recipients, so that it calculates and shows you, based on actual Bates students with income similar to yours, this is what you might expect as a range for contribution. If you're looking for something a little more precise, we also have a net price calculator. It's a little bit more of an investment in time and in gathering information ahead of time, perhaps, to complete it. But it uses the Bates methodology, our need analysis methodology, to calculate a result and show you what your family contribution might be given the inputs that you provide, what the grant would look like, what the self-help or the loan and the work would look like, and then what your net price would be based on our actual cost of attendance. And then in terms of other resources, the Student Financial Services website on the Bates College webpage has a lot of information for students. It has information about our deadlines, information about the application process, what we require, and then it also has a list of contacts of people who work in our office who can help you if you have questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. And for folks, I'm just going to actually share my screen with you really quickly here, just so you can see the page that has MyinTuition. And so now you should be able to see the virtual page here that has the information for MyinTuition. Again, very easy. And if you click the start button here, you'll see some initial questions. Obviously, I would need to fill these out. So I am not applying for college yet, but this page here, the Student Financial Services page, should help give you some wonderful information about affording Bates, talking about the fee, talking about financial aid. And again, this can be different, whether you're a traditional first-year student, an international student, you may be currently enrolled. And again, you'll notice right on the side here, the MyinTuition College Cost Estimator. So again, you'll be able to find that relatively easily. Again, even talks about types of aid. So again, if after tonight, you don't quite remember what the Bates grant was or what does it look like for outside scholarships, again, you have the opportunity here to look at the terms. And so Wendy and her team do an incredible job at really trying to lay this out for you here so that you know really what goes into the financial aid. And then again, as Wendy mentioned, also all of our contact information for the financial aid office. And so you'll notice here, typically broken down based on last name, which isn't something you'd have to stress quite yet, but is something to keep in mind. Maybe you might want to reach out to your counselor that you think might be working with your cohort, so to speak. So you have points of contact here. You'll notice Wendy's information is here as well. So certainly we hope this website can be a great resource so that you can continue to find more information. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now because I think I'm giving myself a headache here going back and forth. But looks like we might have one more question here. Oh, Paul was just saying thank you. Paul, you're very welcome. So Wendy, thank you so much for joining us at 7 p.m. on a Thursday evening. And for the 4 of you that joined us tonight, thank you. Hopefully this helped you really understand what financial aid looks like for us, but we certainly know that the conversation will continue well beyond tonight. So please keep us in the loop. If there's anything we can do to help, we are certainly more than happy to help you in any way that we can. So thank you for the thank yous. Wendy, thank you for joining us. And we hope you have a great evening, folks. Take care.
Good night.